Chapter 8, The Human Greatness. The capital of irony received us, but as things were presented up to now, it was clearly not going to be a trip of pleasure, at least not at first. Captain Butler ordered us to follow him, and then he said goodbye to the other officers. We immersed ourselves in this immense, luminous and modern city that my mind, so lacking in imagination, would never have imagined. We tried not to lose sight of the captain, who never looked back, but as is his custom as a leader, he hoped that his faithful companions would follow him, without losing sight of him. It was complex to do so, since we were enthralled by the surrounding, with every step we took. The whole group and I were really surprised. People filled public spaces, restaurants, and vehicles seemed like they would always collide but never did. Their maneuvers were almost perfect. In the sky, large transparent spheres walked from one side to the other. Most of them were occupied by one person, but sometimes even two were seen driving those strange balloons that floated and crossed the skies. Even when the bad news spread quickly in each place of the Republic, the citizens of the Ark walked happily there, as if no war had been unleashed just a few kilometers away. Separating from the captain would have left us in big trouble, since the language they used in the capital was not English nor any language that I managed to decipher. Another question was added to my mind. Could this be a native language? Perhaps the oldest that anyone could have heard from a previous humanity. And if so, where did it come from? I sank into my thoughts as I followed the captain automatically. The land of the Anakin, I imagined. How could such a place be? A part of me even doubted its existence. It was incredible to even imagine the possibility of seeing giants. Giants. And how tall? How big were the giants? An inner voice asked myself. It was even strange to repeat it in my own mind. I think the whole group was in the same situation within their own mind. We approached a place that seemed to be a large port, where many boats were resting. Captain Butler asked us to wait for him, while he approached the officers who were there. We took the opportunity to talk among ourselves. We were all living in a dream that at times turned into a nightmare. With the experience of a past war and battles at sea that I had under my belt, I was able to notice that the group was still very united and very strong. I suppose that the uncertainty, and this knowledge with which we had unintentionally collided, and transmitted to us an immense desire that arose from within to know more. We wanted all the possible information, to unravel this unknown human history in the lands where we were born. We also started to know about the recent attack. Could it be our fault for escaping from the known lands? Was this our punishment? Were those great walls of ice perhaps artificial? Were the custodians perhaps other humans, or were they a race unknown to us? Giants, new races, new lands, and artificial walls. We began to dig so deep that our theories were already bordering on the ridiculous. It wasn't even logical. Our world changed every second and had done so forever, like a divine sentence. Captain Butler approached us, and told us that we would take that boat from there, pointing with his hand. It was the boat that stood out the most, similar to the one that approached us as soon as we crossed the walls. Everyone was ready to go to the lands of the Anakin. But before that, according to Butler, we would have to stop at the captain's land. We were able to visit every corner of the luxurious and modern vessel. Everything was from a different and distant time to the one known to us. Difficult to understand, in case it was not enough to have noticed it. That technology was light years advanced. They explained to me that we could practically say that these ships handled themselves. The outside was hardly heard. They were very quiet, fast, and hardly any movement was noticed in the water, but in any case, the sea was calm. The waves were always in this state, their calmest and most neutral form in these lands, at least in all our experience on our trip here. So that led to another question that was added to the immense list that I already had. Did these waters perhaps have a totally different way of behaving compared to ours? One thing was certain, that the moon shone at least 3 times more the color of the sun, and was totally different from the one in our world. There was also another sphere of a bluish-black color, which I came to notice when the Iron Blues battled. At first I imagined that it would be part of some technology unknown, but it was still there, static, in a part of the sky. After a few minutes of sailing at truly extraordinary speeds for the entire group, the captain ordered us to prepare to descend. Although the situation was tense, and certain precautions were taken during the short trip, a different air was breathed as we arrived at this island that had a humble little port. Not so different from those we knew in America, and in the distance many low gleaming white houses peeping out from among the green hills. Butler left his few belongings on the ground, and suddenly a girl who seemed to be no more than 6 years old ran into his arms. Behind him a woman with a pale face smiled when she saw the captain arrive at the port. After a deep hug she introduced us. It was his wife and daughter who welcomed us. Captain Butler, with a cheerful tone, confirmed what we all thought: "Welcome to my lands, comrades. This is my family and I hope you are comfortable here for as long as we can stay." We settled in some houses next to the captain's house. He invited us to enter and provided us with all the comforts. We didn't think that we would be there for a long time due to the urgency that the situation in which we were required. However, Captain Butler later commented that he hadn't been home for a little over a year, and he wasn't going to waste the moment with his family. We stayed 2 nights on that simple but beautiful island, and during this period I was able to talk to the captain about various points that kept bothering my mind. I was looking for answers over and over again. My mind did not stop for a second. Captain Butler knew, and anticipated as he always did. He was a man who was several steps ahead of us in every decision and thought. I hope your minds are somehow modified, to put it in a way that you can understand me. I tried to follow him with my eyes, in an act of internal questioning, just waiting for him to develop that interesting and disturbing point. Butler then went on to say, "The last humanity is dependent on your mind, in a totally harmful extreme. It does not take off almost at any time except for exceptions. You can imagine what exists, and what is based on your thoughts, on your created image, by experiences and through others who also feed off the thoughts of others. Everyone creates an immense network where each one identifies, according to where they were born, their status quo or physical condition, but this does nothing, except move away from the true human essence. We, who have blood of ancestral humanity, do not have that permanent attack of the mind, with infinite thoughts that are mostly degrading. They are mostly inventions of situations that no longer exist or that will never happen. Humanity in each reset was getting closer to what the custodians want from us. They were modifying both their bodies and minds as well as the environment. The lands you left behind is an isolated, unreal world, where evil stands out, wars abound and degradation becomes almost unbearable. But those humans, your brothers and also mine, although from another time, they are not what their minds think every day. This is why the story is hidden. Because if human greatness were known, then nothing could stop us in our growth. No one would live on their knees if they knew who is tying them with the invisible leash there in that world inside the ice walls. I remained silent and kept my words to myself so as not to cry helplessly. I had never heard the captain be so clear. His gaze was lost on the horizon. I kept that night as one of the many unforgettable ones I would have in these glorious and revealing lands. I made some other important questions that you will soon understand from the very account of what will happen. The next morning when that strange sun would shine again, it would find us sailing towards the lands of the Anakin, the giants.